What happens when both championship contenders take each other out in the first corner? What happens when the entire title fight gets turned upside down in just one lap? And what happens when the chaos doesn't stop there? In 19 laps at COTA, we witnessed the most dramatic sprint race of the season. McLaren's championship dreams turned into a nightmare. Max Verstappen reminded everyone why he's a four-time world champion. And we saw accidents, redemption, and absolute chaos that ended behind the safety car. Stick with me because we're breaking down every team, every moment, and every twist in this insane 2025 US Grand Prix sprint race. Let's go. So here's what we're walking into. Max Verstappen on pole, his third consecutive sprint pole at COTA. Behind him, the two McLaren drivers fighting for the World Championship. Oscar Piastri leading Lando Norris by 22 points in the standings. And let me tell you, the tension between the two was already at breaking point after Singapore. Remember Singapore? Norris made contact with Piastri on lap 1. There was a talk of consequences and repercussions for Lando. McLaren were trying to manage both their drivers for this title fight. The pressure was immense. And here's the million-dollar question. With Verstappen 63 points behind in third, could he capitalize on this tension? Could he drive a wedge between the McLarens? Because that's all he needed, just one opportunity. Little did we know that opportunity was coming in about 30 seconds. Lights out, Verstappen gets an incredible launch. He's covering the inside, he's safe into turn 1, but look behind him. Chaos. Norris is on the inside trying to hold position. Piastri attempts the switchback on the outside, but then contact. Nico Hülkenberg's Sauber clips Piastri's left rear. Piastri's car goes up on two wheels and spins directly into Norris. Both McLarens are out, championship leader out, his teammate out. Fernando Alonso is also caught up in it and retires on the spot. Let that sink in. In one corner, the entire championship dynamic just shifted. Piastri loses a potential 8 points. Norris loses points, and Max is leading the safety car with a massive grin under his helmet. I guarantee it. And here is where it gets interesting. McLaren CEO Zak Brown gets on the radio and says, and I quote, "That was terrible. Neither of our drivers to blame. That's some amateur hour driving by some drivers up there at the front." He blamed Hülkenberg, said Nico had no business being where he was. But here's the thing, was it really Hülkenberg's fault? Or was it just racing incident, amplified by the pressure these McLarens are under? So, safety car comes out, debris everywhere. We restart on lap 5, and now the question becomes, who's going to capitalize on this McLaren disaster? The order after the restart. Verstappen leading, George Russell in second, Carlos Sainz in third, Charles Leclerc in fourth, and Lewis Hamilton fifth. George Russell, the guy who won the last race in Singapore, is now right on Verstappen's gearbox. Can Mercedes make it 2 wins in a row? Can Russell pull off the upset? And what about Carlos Sainz? He's having incredible season with Williams. Can he snag another podium after his third place in Baku? But most importantly, can anyone challenge Verstappen? Because the Dutchman is undefeated in sprint races at COTA. He's won 23 and 24, and he is leading in 25. Lap 8, Russell makes his move. Turn 12, he's on the inside and he locks up. Both cars go off track. Verstappen has to take evasive action. And here's what Verstappen does better than anyone. He manages these sprint races. He knows when to push, when to conserve. Russell stayed within DRS, but he could never get close enough for another real attempt. Meanwhile, there's a Ferrari battle brewing. Hamilton and Leclerc, teammates now after Lewis moved from Mercedes. And Hamilton makes the move stick, turn 5, lap 9. Hamilton is through into 4th place. But let's talk about Ferrari's pace, or lack of it. Lewis qualified 8 tenths behind Verstappen. Leclerc was full second back. This team is struggling. They are so far behind. In Leclerc's own words, at the track where Charles won last year, they're nowhere. So we settle into a rhythm. Top 8 is looking solid, but then I'm watching the battle further back and thinking, what's going to happen here? You've got Yuki Tsunoda fighting from 18th on the grid. Remember, Red Bull released him too late in qualifying. He never got a final lap. He's trying to salvage something from this race. You've got the Alpine drivers. Pierre Gasly qualified 13th. Franco Colapinto 17th. Both trying to score points for a team that's been struggling. And then there's Aston Martin of Lance Stroll and the Haas of Esteban Ocon. They're racing hard. Too hard, as it turns out. Lap 16 of 19. Here we go. Turn 1. Stroll dives down the inside of Ocon. He locks up and smashes into the Haas. Ocon spins, his race is over, Stroll's front right suspension is destroyed, he tries to limp back to the pits but he's going nowhere. Both cars are beached. Safety car again, and with only 3 laps remaining, there's no way we're restarting. This race is finishing under yellow. 2 huge accidents, 4 retirements from crashes, and the championship leader taken out on lap 1. This was carnage at COTA. Let's break down every team, starting with Red Bull. Max Verstappen wins. Of course he does. That's 8 points, his third straight sprint win at COTA, and he closes the gap to Piastri from 63 points down to just 55. This is huge for Max. Even if the title fight is a long shot, he is back in the fight, and Yuki Tsunoda fought from 18th to finish 7th. That's 2 points, solid damage limitation. McLaren nightmare doesn't even begin to describe it. 0 points. Piastri and Norris both DNF. They were set up for a potential 1-2-3 with Verstappen, and now they score nothing. Piastri's championship lead is now smaller, and they learn nothing about tire degradation or setup for Sunday's race. 4 hours until qualifying, and their cars are in pieces. Mercedes, George Russell, P2, 7 points coming off of a win in Singapore. This keeps his momentum rolling. The team is fighting Ferrari for second in the constructors, and this helps massively. Kimi Antonelli, though, he qualified 11th, missed SQ3 by 6 thousandths of a second. In the race, he finished 8th after Oliver Behrmans got a 10-second penalty. Learning race, but he needs to find that extra 10th in qualifying. Williams, Carlos Sainz, P3, 6 points. This guy is unreal this season. His second podium in Williams. After Baku's third place, he backs it up here despite missing most of FP1 with a gearbox issue. And Alex Albon, P6, 3 points. Both Williams cars in the points. They're fighting to hold on. P5 in the constructors, and days like this are crucial. Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, P4, 5 points. Charles Leclerc, P5. 4 points. On the paper, not terrible, but context, they were nowhere pace-wise. Hamilton was 8 tenths off pole. Leclerc was a full second back. At the track where Charles Leclerc won last year, they're fighting Mercedes for P2 in the constructors, and performances like this won't cut it. Something is fundamentally wrong with this SF25. Aston Martin, complete disaster. Fernando Alonso caught in the lap 1 chaos, DNF. Lance Stroll crashes into Ocon on lap 16, DNF. 0 points, they're fighting for P6 in the constructors with Racing Bulls and Sauber, and the weekends like this are killers. Sauber, this is interesting. Nico Hülkenberg qualified P4, his best starting position of the season. The car was in the sweet spot, he loved the circuit. But in the race, he got caught up in the lap 1 incident, had to pit for repairs, rejoined in 15th and finished 13th. No points. Gabriel Bortoleto started last after track limits deleted his qualifying lap, finished 11th, promising pace, no reward. Haas, Esteban Ocon gets torpedoed by Stroll, DNF. Oliver Behrman finishes 15th after a 10-second penalty for an incident with Antonelli. 0 points at their home race. They brought upgrades to COTA. They are fighting for P8 in constructors, and they live with nothing. Brutal. Racing Bulls, Liam Lawson, P9, 0 points. Isaac Hadjar, P12, 0 points. Hadjar is crushing Tsunoda this season, 39 points to Tsunoda's 20, and he's the favorite to take Tsunoda Red Bull seat next year. Every point matters in this audition. Alpine, Pierre Gasly, P10, and Franco Colapinto, P14. No points. Gasly qualified 13 and fought his way into P10. The team has been struggling all season. So after all that chaos, after both McLarens crash out, after 2 safety cars and finish under yellow, we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean for the championship? Piastri still leads, but his advantage shrunk. Verstappen gained ground without even being challenged, and psychological damage to McLaren. That might be the biggest impact of all. Because here's the thing, qualifying starts in 4 hours. They have to rebuild those cars, figure out their setup, and go straight into qualifying. Meanwhile, Verstappen and Red Bull, they're relaxed, they're confident, they're in the driver's seat. Here's what you need to remember from this sprint race. Championships are won and lost in the chaos. McLaren had the pace, they had the positions, and in one corner it all disappeared. Max Verstappen is never out of a fight. 63 points back, now 55. Every point matters. Every DNF from the McLarens is a gift. The midfield is brutal. Williams with double points, Haas with 0 at their home race. Every sprint race matters when you're fighting for those constructors' positions. This sprint race had everything: crashes, drama, championship implications, redemption stories, and a heartbreak. And we still have qualifying and the main race to come. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button. We're covering the entire US Grand Prix weekend, so subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss qualifying and race reactions. Drop a comment below. Who do you think is going to win on Sunday? Can Verstappen make it a double? Will McLaren bounce back? Or is someone else going to surprise us? Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe.